Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this video we will be going over actually of how you could potentially create your own model with the MW Futures Liquidity Scalper, and not just any model. In this video and potentially the videos to come, we will go over how we could create the ICT silver bullet in the New York AM session with the MW Futures Liquidity Scalper from scratch. So when you are a new user of the MW Futures Liquidity Scalper, you might want to start with something small, something easy, instead of creating very complicated models. As you already know, I myself already have a very refined model myself. If you have been following me, and that model has over a 70% win rate, with a great risk to reward of 1 to 2, which is totally fine for scalping setups, I would say. So when you are invited to the MW Futures Liquidity Scalper, what you have to do is you just have to add it to your chart over here. And once it has been added, it will have certain already default settings, obviously, and we would have to have a look on what those look like. So let's give it a second to load up on the chart, and I will already say from the beginning that I will probably need more than one video to actually complete the model that we will be creating in this particular video experiment, this video series. And you might ask, well, why is that? It's very easy actually. Um, a model is not just something you create in a minute. It takes time, it takes effort to actually look into it, to create something that is useful. So when you load it up, you will see that a lot of things have already been set up. Right now, what we will be doing is just putting everything to basically default, meaning that I will just set everything to 0. What I will do is that I will set the max trades to 4 so that we can take several trades that are potentially needed. I will remove the AM opening range gap. What I see is that we have a liquidity surge and stop hour. By default, this is set to 11:30 due to the fact that the silver bullet hour has a rule where you can only place trade between 10 and 11. I will be placing this to 11 o'clock. I will set my allowed trading hours to 10, and we will close our entire positions by 11:30 for now. We will remove all the filters. And let's see, I will be using volume imbalances. We will not be using enter slippage or close above below for now. We will not use any minimum or maximum handles right now, because we want to see what we're working with. The same for looking to merge targets. And let's have a look. The avoid times are what they are. So we do not really have to look at that. So let's have a look with just the default settings, what we will be looking at right now. So we see that we have currently over the past 28 days, just with this, that we have a not so good win rate, right? Like we only made 158 well, P&L, which is not good. So what I will do for now is that whenever we trade, I want to make sure that we always risk the maximum amount. So I will just put in here 1 million. It doesn't really make sense, but it will always make sure that we use the max amount of contract sizing. I will set my top step account to 150k. That means that we will always use the rules of top step in regards to trading. Beautiful having a sip of coffee in the morning. Alright, so now let's have a look at, for example, this trade that was a loser. Right now, with the liquidity lines that are being generated, they are always being generated on the, well, let's say, the pre-market of every hour, so the first 30 minutes of every hour. And what we see is this is potentially not something that we want right now. Like, it only generates the Aver value gap after pre-market has finished. So those are not the default settings that we are looking for, because with the silver bullet there are a few things that are important. Like you look at a fair value gap that's being created between 10 and 11. And you would also like to see potentially that one side of liquidity has been taken out compared to the opposite side. So what I will do to actually make sure that this will work is that my liquidity start hour, I will put that to 9:30, and I will enable the opening range, which means that right now what we will see, instead of calculating liquidity from midnight, we will generate liquidity from the opening range only, which is 9:30 to 10, and between 10 and 10:30. And what we see is then when we are, for example, looking at this particular day, for example, it is here, it's 10 o'clock. Then we see that the liquidity has been generated. We take out the first liquidity pool, meaning that right now the only buy side liquidity pool is left right now. And that eventually we get to that trade that we saw earlier. So the actual trade here where we go in, and that we have two liquidity pools right now because like at 10:30 a new sell side and buy side liquidity pool was generated due to pre-market. And what we see is that we enter, we go up, and then we eventually get stopped out when we had to put our stops to break even. But we already could, when we are looking at this, we see that we actually moved like 57 handles to the top side when we were in this trade. So what we could have done actually, just to make sure that we had a nice run on liquidity, that for our first partial profit, to turn this losing trade into a winner, what we could do is set our max take profits handles to, for example, let's say 20. What that does is that right now we will take a profit at 20 handles. As you can see over here, we have a first take profit 20 handles with 8 contracts, then we get stopped out with the remaining 7 contracts because we entered with 15 contracts. And then again we entered a second time, and also a third time, where the third time we actually lost. So that is something that I do not want. So instead of 4 trades, I will be reducing it to 2 for now to see how that will hold up. What I could also do is, instead of doing 2 trades, I could keep the 4, and that I, for example, would make this larger so that we would take a max profit at 30. I think 30 is actually potentially even better. It is a very nice maximum for taking a first partial. I myself mainly like to actually only take profits at 20 over 30, but for the sake of this video we will just start from 0 and see how that goes. I will actually also just put it to max 1 trade because the official rules are that you only take 1 trade. And what we see with the losing trade that we first had, we already turned that into a winner. So previously we had, I think it was $300 of profit. When we are now going to look at it, we actually have a way worse result, which is fine. We know that the adjustments that we just made were not good enough, meaning that we should see and perhaps adjust even more. So let's look at another losing trade, which was over here, and we see that we have a fair value gap at 10:31, but the actual silver bullet hour started over here at 10, right? So potentially what we want to do, we see that we had a move from all the way here to there. And when we also go into bar replay, let's go to the 10-11 handle. We see that we actually have only one bullish liquidity pool all the way over here. So one bullish liquidity pool all the way over there. So if there was a fair value gap that was generated after 10, which has not yet been generated, I think it will generate over here. So a fair value gap would have been generated over here, which would have given us a potential nice run to actually take trades. So if we want to generate fair value gaps over here, what we could do is like search for a fair value gap every 30 minutes, which means that it will search on the bottom of the hour to so it will search for a fair value gap between 10:30 from 10 to 10:30 and from 10:30 to 11. What we do see is that the account right now would have been blown. So for just the sake of argument, I will quickly switch to AMP Live so I can see what would have happened otherwise. So we see that we would have entered, we would have had our first TP. Actually, not our first TP. We actually would have had our profit. And we see that we had another entry over there with a quick, where we actually got stopped out. I see. We actually got stopped out over here, which is not that great, but it's fine. So I know this right now sounds a little bit hectic of what I'm going through. I mean, it's like for me, creating something like this is not scripted. This is just raw. I'm looking at things right now and see, okay, what can I do? What to fix this? And what I actually think I will do, for example, when I look at the losing trade like this over here, is that I will probably, let's see, when we go to 11. So we know that we generate liquidity from the opening range, and then that we have pre-market and then we have the pre-market liquidity. So that means that we have a liquidity pool here and all the way over here. I probably do not really like that much. So what I will do for now, just to play around, is that I will calculate liquidity pools every 15 minutes, which is basically just every 15-minute high and low. And that means that we are still currently short and have some losing trades over here. I see. I will put this one back to 1. That is fine. Let's have a look what actually this does. Like when we generate liquidity every 15 minutes. It's not that great. Like we have a few ups and downs, so that's not ideal. Let's see what happens when we search for a value gap every 15 minutes. Okay, we see that that actually has a better potential result. So let's have a look at what happens at this losing trades. So what we do see is that during this time we were actually bullish and we tried to short. So that's not ideal, I would say. So potentially what we want to do when we are looking for a silver bullet hour, we see that we just took out an intermediate term high here, which made us bullish. We actually also went to a long-term high over here. So I know for sure that if I would follow the intermediate and long-term highs and lows, that this trade would have been filtered out. So if I would check the long-term high and long-term low order flow, that trade itself would have been filtered out. So I actually want to see what the results of that would be. And as you can see, it actually already filtered out a lot of the noise, which is good. So now I want to see, okay, what actually happens on this trade over here. The trade itself, it wasn't that bad, I see. Wasn't too bad. What happens though? I really want to look at what happens when I use the normal value gap sizes and pools. It looks like it's doing the same thing basically. So when we are looking at a trade like this, and how we entered, we see that this fair value gap was extremely small. like it was not even a handle. So what I will do for now is that I will put a minimum filter on the fair value gap size that we want to trade, and by just doing that we remove that particular trade. So now I know that the account isn't blown up, so let's switch back to 150k. Which means that from being totally unprofitable, we now made sure that we were able to actually take profitable trades. We also saw that with the generate liquidity every 15 minutes, we also see that instead of just taking that 8 handle, that 8 contract move here, we now also took a partial over here, which is great, and that we then have 3 contracts where we still exited over here at break even. So I think this is already showing some potential. What I am curious about though, I know that we are currently following long-term highs and long-term lows in order flow. So I'm surprised that we took this particular one, because I assume that we weren't actually bullish here. But let's first see just what this does actually on the deep backtester. So we will just run from 2024 till today, which is like a year and 2 months of data. And let's see if that actually is profitable or unprofitable for us. And what we have done so far is basically just we are looking at fair value gaps on every 15-minute candle, in every 15-minute candle, to see if there is a setup within this particular hour. Also what we have done is like put a small filter where we do not want to utilize small fair value gaps, like the very minor ones. Like the question is like, are they actually fair value gaps? Probably not. Most of the times they don't even respond. Alright, so what we see is actually that right now when we do the 150k account, that the account would have been blown. So I will put it back to AMP Live for now. And max contract size on 15, the margin is 2220. Alright. These are still the rules basically of an 150k account. But instead of doing it with a top step account, it's now live capital, so we are not blown after hitting that 4500 stop loss, basically the drawdown limit. This is, by the way, how my work days look like, guys. So I'm looking at the charts, I'm looking at price action and see, is there something I can do here which makes sense or not? So right now what I see in the deep backtesting is that we actually have a this is right now the silver bullet with these settings is a very bad trade model as of now. So yes, what we see is that the normal strategy tester is not showing is showing that it can be profitable, like, but we only had one trade, right? And with the deep backtesting report, we see that, well, there were some trades, but overall we have actually a negative return. So to probably fix that, I would have to go into the list of trades once I again get the deep backtesting data, and then see, alright, what are common, well, what is common in the losing trades that are being performed? So let's, for example, say that here at trade 112, I see a very steep curve to the downside at 112. So I want to see what is trade 112. Trade 112 was executed at, let's see, the 20th of August. So let's go to the 20th of August. Select date. '20th of August, and then it was at 10:24. So we see that we took a trade over here. We get tagged in, we get stopped out, and it just continues to go to the downside. So what I noticed here is that we were using long-term highs and long-term lows for our order flow before. What I think I would do when I look at this, I will actually, because the silver bullet is like such a small window of time where we actually trade, I would actually change this into in the intermediate term lows and highs for the order flow, remove the long-term highs and order flow just to see what the result will be in my strategy tester. So we see that now actually we have a loss over here instead of a win. And this loss I want to quickly filter out probably. Let's have a look. What was actually the... I want to see what the order flow was when this trade was placed. So the long term is bullish, as you can see. The short term is bearish because we took this out. So there are two ways I could go about this, right? So what I could do is that I actually would also re-enable the long-term order flow as well. But I also see that this trade actually like would have made 15 handles minimally. So what I think that I will first do is that I will put my first profit target actually at 15 handles, due to the fact that we then actually have like a small trade which is profitable instead of a loss and filtering it out entirely. So just with that, we see that we now turned it into some sort of a winning strategy again. Then we see that we have a loss over here at 11 o'clock. So what I think I will do here is that I will stop my trading 1 minute earlier. So 10:59, because if you do 11 specifically, it will still place that trade on the 11th. Let's have a look. Or actually, I don't think that I actually want to trade this. So I will, yeah, that's 2 handles, that's not big. So I will actually keep this at 11. We put this to 0. And I will actually just want to filter this one out, right? Two handles, so now it's taken off. Let's just be sure that perhaps I can do 175. Most of the times, actually, for my most profitable strategies, I use 5 handles for a minimum for value gap size. Because everything below that is just so minor and small, it's almost insignificant. So what we do see is that we do not have trades at all with this, which you can say whatever you want from that. So in the past 28 days with this particular strategy, we didn't have any trades at all. So what happens when I remove that? Nothing gets seen, alright. If I remove the order flow again. Okay, this is potentially something I can work with. Now we see that we have several more trades. I think to actually, I've never really tried to do the silver bullet itself with the liquidity scalper. So what I think I would do is first really start optimizing the fair value gap sizes. So right now we search for a fair value gap every 15 minutes, which could be interesting, and we place one trade every hour basically. So and we don't use any filters right now in regards to order flow whatsoever. So I think that to first filter out all these bad trades, we will first start by doing the fair value gap sizes indeed. So we see that we have a loss over here. So it is 10. And we see that we only have sell side left. So is this something we want to trade? I do see that right now we are like shorting below midnight. So I want to see if there are several trades where we try to short below midnight where it shouldn't. So this seems fair. This is actually what is this trade? Where's midnight over here? I don't see where midnight is. I want to see where midnight is. Okay, so that we try to long here is actually valid, I would say. Yeah, that we try the longer is not bad. So I want to see what actually where our stop loss placement was. So our stop loss placement was at the low of this particular candle. I think just for sakes of not being as aggressive as I can be, I will put the stop loss to the actual low of the first candle, which turned this one into a winner. Where we still have 7 contracts, and we can stop that at break even. And then this trade actually has been gone. Okay, awesome. I think I don't want to short when we are already below midnight. So yeah, okay, that already gave us an extra 1k. What happens here? So we shorted here. We are above midnight. We do have like a lot of equal highs over here. The first short over here was fine. What we do seem that we have like switched in regards to the order flow. It seems like we want to go up. Which means that I want to see what the results would be if I now enable this again. Okay, so that's not ideal at all. What does the sniper series do? Oh, that's amazing. So, alright, so if you are a user of the NW Fusion Liquidity Scalper, you know that we have the enable EMA filter daily. Basically what it just is just from the ICT Forex Sniper series, it's the 9 and 18 EMA. Which gives us a general direction of where we potentially would like to go. So we've just, right now what we have changed is like our stop loss placement, right? We have changed the fair value gap size. We search for a fair value gap every 15 minutes. What I potentially also, I'm not going to right now play too much with the stop loss yet. Not yet. So what I do see is that we have a losing trade here. This is our only losing trade so far. And then we enter once more here. That's interesting. So this trade actually would have been solid, but we get taken out and we get entered here. I think I will just take this loss as it is. I want to see what the current results are. And I know this is very dry material, right? Like what you do, you just keep playing with settings of the liquidity, with the order flow settings, with the fair value gap settings, just to figure out like the model that you're trying to build right now, how valuable is it? Like what can you actually do with it? And I know that I actually right now only use the liquidity generated from the opening range, and that's it. What you also could do is like even look for the entire pre-market. So let's for example look at the entire pre-market. So New York pre-market officially starts at 7. So if we would start at 7, perhaps our results would be totally different. Could be. I don't say that it should, but it could be. So right now we changed it and we see that in our normal strategy tester, not much changed. Like the same settings, same profit. But I want to see if actually taking liquidity from the pre-market session, if that changes anything in regards to the deep backtesting session. And really what I will do is just right now rinse and repeat. When I see the results of this, I will probably look into, alright, what are potentially losing trades. Like this is already a bit better. It still sucks. Let's be honest here, this still sucks. Like it's very choppy. So I should be figuring out a way. So I should be figuring out a way of how I could actually, this choppiness that we have over here, how could I prevent having all of the choppiness? And I personally think, so right now we generate every 15 minutes. Very interesting. Yeah, I think that for this video right now, we'll just call it like this. This will be part 1 of creating the silver bullet for the MW Futures Liquidity Scalper. In the future, we will move on also to, well, figure out if we can actually optimize this to getting it to around 70 to 80% win rate, and see if, well, we can make this a profitable model so that you have a real life example of how you can use it yourself, and eventually when you get a signal to actually enter, that you can trust it. So thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.
In the morning light, markets take a flight. Nasdaq opens tight, only 30 feels so right. Liquidity's the key, trading wild and free. Make your bets and see where the money gonna be. Watch the ticker rise, dreams in our eyes. Our numbers never lie, in the NYA sky. Liquidity's the key, trading wild and free. Make your bets and see where the money gonna be. Watch the ticker rise, dreams in our eyes. Our numbers never lie, in the NYA sky. Opening prices, hey, let's seize the day. Volatility at play, need that cash, okay? For 0830 we start reeling. 12 o'clock and that feeling. Indexes keep feeling, our profits keep on healing. Watch the ticker rise.